Welcome to the War Room, a weekly roundtable discussion that takes place every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Tune in at 911warroom.com/Zoom.
Because we want to get it started.
It is 5 o'clock, September 18th, 2022. Welcome to the 911 War Room. Everyone that's able to be here. Start off real quick with a couple news items. I didn't exhaustively go through them, but I did want to share a couple. This is from the Seattle Times. America made a deal with the devil, families of 9/11 victims say, as they sue Saudi Arabia. Basically, it says a tireless group of 9/11 loved ones say they're fighting for their day in court to finally prove that was such a horrifically bad decision. Somewhere in here, the last best hope is playing out in federal court in Manhattan now. I kind of find that discouraging because none of these people know about what the Lawyers Committee for 9/11 Inquiry is doing. They just sort of sweep that under the rug, if they even know about it at all. And so, yeah, if you're going to go with Kreindler and Motley Rice, you're going to go this route. Yeah, this is their last best hope in that avenue. But I think we have another best avenue with the Lawyers Committee for 9/11 Inquiry. If people would just stand up for their First Amendment rights and just can't bang that drum hard enough.
And Jane, I'm thinking as I'm looking at this, maybe it would be not a bad idea to, every time there's an article like that addresses this specific trial, for some of us to write to that journalist or that newspaper to make them aware. I mean, obviously they are reporting some of the legal things involving 9/11. And if they don't know, then this is like the perfect occasion for some of us to reach out to them and let them know, hey, there's this other big case going on that you should be aware of, and just send them a recap of it.
Yeah, do that. Just clicking on Joe Dwindle that wrote this. You go to his page and there's nothing how to contact him. So you'd have to dig deeper to find him. But
okay,
yeah.
So then, but I mean,
yeah,
we could compile that. I mean, over the last few weeks, there have been so many stories like this that, I mean, this is a great opportunity to jump on it and I mean, at least the possibility that at least make them aware. Sorry, I got something in the stove. Hold on.
Every opportunity that we have, Sandra's right. We should take a chance just to send a simple email, just to put it on their radar if they don't know. That's a good point. The other 9/11 news, but it doesn't really have to do with 9/11, although some of you might see the similarity. This happened a couple days ago in China. 42-story China telecom office building, no deaths immediately reported. You guys saw the video of this thing. Very intense fires burned through. I don't know what the structure was, if it was a structural steel frame building or if it was concrete with rebar, but really intense fire. The thing did not collapse globally, symmetrically, and against the path of most resistance. This happened 4 or 5 days after 9/11 in China. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. And
no more information on that, James?
No, I do not. I've been looking on the news, but it just seems like as of 2 days ago, now I'm getting a cat video. That's funny. Hi, Richard. Thanks for joining.
Nice to be here.
So I was just saying about this new fire that we saw in China.
Yeah.
Don't know what to make of it. I still have seen no deaths, which is kind of odd for such a big building to have absolutely no deaths.
Is it residential fire?
No, it was a telecom building.
During the middle of the day?
Yeah.
Fire?
Yep.
They all got out, I guess, or maybe it was empty. I haven't had a chance to do any research on this.
No, me neither. I was just reporting we had seen it. From all the newspaper articles, it was a really intense fire. But again, like I just said before you hopped on, we don't know what the building structure was. If it was rebar and concrete, or if it was structural steel frame building or whatnot.
Well, either which way, it did not collapse.
Yeah, right. Yep.
And Larry Silverstein didn't own it, right?
Hi, Al.
Hi, Richard.
Hi.
All right, and that's really all the news I wanted to share. Really just wanted to leave this as an open time to talk about what all we did this past September 11th. As I guess, start off, Richard, if you'd like to start off with how the film festival went.
Sure. Felt pretty awesome to me. I had a number of glitches. Seems to always happen, no matter how accustomed I get to StreamYard. But we honored David Ray Griffin. That went really well, and we had James Corbett on. He was awesome, but his films, part 2 and part 3 of the part 2 and there's my microphone. Sound
There we
better?
go. That sounds
Sorry.
better.
Part 2 and part 3 of False Flags: A Secret History of Al Qaeda. I learned an awful lot I never knew about Al Qaeda and false flag operations dating back to the Lavon affair in 1940s with Israel blowing up stuff in Egypt and Alexandria, particularly. That was kind of fascinating to me. And then we had Elizabeth Woodworth come on, talk about the points of evidence in the consensus panel. By the way, hi everybody. We got Ed here, David here.
Hey.
Gail's here now.
Yes,
Say hi, Gail.
he's muted.
She's muted.
I'm
Yep,
here. I'm here. Forgot to take off mute. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Gail.
Hey,
Hey.
Hey.
Is everybody good?
Yep.
Yeah.
We're-
And we raised 15,000 of our $19,000 goal for the
Excellent.
film series fundraising. And that was pretty cool. So, you know, we're well on our way to having the budget we need, certainly to get through the Building 7 part of the film series. So that's fantastic. And I don't know, we had a few hundred people. Can anybody remind, was it 200, 300? Something like that,
We were,
watching live.
where were we, Sandra? We were somewhere out in the field.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, the day before that was the Lawyers Committee for 9/11 Inquiry Symposium on Saturday, September 10th. We hope Mick will come and talk about that. If he doesn't, I was there. I gave an impassioned plea to support the Lawyers Committee, and so we'll let that one go. But the next day, I was flown to Fort Lauderdale to speak on the. Hi, who's that? Ross, how you doing?
Good.
Perfect. Interviewed by Patrick Bet David, and that was a great inroad. He has 3.5 million subscribers. So that was awesome, and gave all the evidence out there on the Twin Towers and Building 7. And you know, he had asked some real tough questions on you know, how could they have gotten away with it? Who did this? How could they? Somebody would have talked, you know, and gave a whole elaborate hypothetical scenario as to why that couldn't be possible, that my evidence could be true because someone would have talked. I thought I handled it pretty well. I told him that in a court of law, you have evidence, and then you have speculation. Well, it's the evidence, theoretically, that rules, and that's why that's what the grand jury is going to be looking at. So, very good news.
Sandra,
Huh?
what did we hear with the Philadelphia experiment? It came out that 33,000 people had to have been involved in that.
No, we're talking about the Manhattan Project, and
sorry.
that was 110 to 130,000 people that were involved. And the same argument was made. How come nobody knew about this until the very, very end? And, you know, that's always my argument. You know, people get compartmentalized in these kinds of initiatives where it's on an absolute need to know basis, and nobody knows what three people over are doing with it. So yes, it's absolutely possible to have something of this magnitude happen without people communicating or knowing exactly what their role is in the whole thing and nobody talking.
So it was Manhattan Project, 100 to 130,000 people involved without speaking about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it happens.
yeah.
I could speak on that a little bit, if I may. My dad worked at a company called Teledyne, and my grandfather worked there as well. And the plant that was in my hometown actually made some of the parts that dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. But nobody knew because it was all compartmentalized. So they had
Yeah.
no idea even what they were working on.
Right.
And that's one of the ways that the compartmentalization keeps all that hush hush. So it's not like all 130,000 know everything about what's going on. They just know,
Right.
oh, I'm making this this bolt, and then they they make it for something and they don't know about. So that's kind of how it's done.
Thank you for that. So all in all, the film festival was a success. Great to hear. You're muted.
Richard, we see your lips moving, but
Sorry.
there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
We
we
ha-
can.
The Diana Castillo in Miami set up a local event there. So at a restaurant, we had 25 people or something. That was
Wow.
really good. I gave a presentation, the whole presentation this time on the parallels between 9/11 and COVID, which are extraordinary. That was developed by Kevin Ryan. And I just kind of said, yeah, really, people in COVID truth movement need to know about 9/11 truth movement and vice versa. So it's a fertile cross pollination of these two movements. So the next day, we paid $1,000 to table at a major conference in Post Falls, Idaho, Reawaken America, Clay Clark's kind of pro-Trump, pro-patriot rally, which is incredibly 9/11 aware. We had an evidence booth. So I had bought a bunch of David Ray Griffin DVDs. I had some old AE 9/11 Truth DVDs. They don't sell them to me anymore. So but I had some and we sold them out. We sold $900 worth of DVDs, which is almost what we paid for the booth. And I had to pay, $10 per DVD from because most of them came from Ken Jenkins, and then some books which we sold also, David Ray Griffin books. But the beautiful thing is that all that information went out into the community, and we went broke in the process because we spent a total of $1,400
Wow.
and came back with like 500. And so, but there are some really great podcasts, and we know, and AMP. I met the producer of AMP. Oh my God.
American Media Periscope.
Yeah, American Media. Whose voice was that?
Your wife.
Wife.
Oh, oh my God, that's embarrassing.
Really?
I did. I'm going. I know that voice. I know that voice. It was just disembodied.
Aw.
American Media Periscope. So, and then Ann Vandersteel, who's very, very popular in the conservative circles also. So we've got 3 or 4 more requests for interviews with big audiences. And we also have put some pressure on Clay Clark himself so that we can get speaking at this conference also. And the next Red Pill conference is in Salt Lake City. I haven't yet been invited to speak at that one. I've spoken at 3 or 4 of them. But we're going to go and host a booth there because the connections are incredible. So it's worth the extra expense.
Richard, do you ever reach out to any of the left-leaning groups are people like Jill Stein, Dennis Kucinich, people that come from the left, anti-war people.
No.
It might be a nice balanced view, because they were definitely leaning towards 9/11, and would be a good interview, I think, if you have the opportunity.
Sure. Yeah.
Cynthia McKinney would be
Yeah, there you
awesome.
go. Cynthia McKinney is another one.
Does she,
Yeah,
she doesn't have
on
a
point.
show, does she?
No,
Mhm.
she actually had to move out of the US because of, I mean, she was pretty much 86 after the 2008 for coming out with 9/11 and connecting Israel and all that. But man, if you could get her on, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hi, Kale.
I just want to share this, since.
Yeah, you
Richard
kind of have,
mentioned-
wait,
You knew I
before
was
you
gonna-
do, before you do, because I saw your
Yeah.
face light up just like mine did. I have to ask Richard, were you asked by LT for an interview?
LT, yeah, not LT, his son, who
Interesting.
spoke at the conference.
Oh, this
So
is
LT
awesome.
says, sure. I mean, LT's son, he has a name. He said, oh yeah, my dad. We're gonna have you on, absolutely.
That's
Okay,
awesome.
because there's a whole other background connection there that you don't even know about, that this is where
Oh,
Gene's
so-
going.
I've been listening to
Huh.
LT and We Know for a long time and been harping on him about 9/11 for a
Oh,
long,
you
long
have?
time. And
Relentlessly.
relentlessly, as you would know how I could do that. And he actually, for the longest time, he finally got into 9/11 and on his website had a section for 9/11 Truth. And he goes, here's a tutorial series that everyone should be aware of. And you click on his drop down arrow and it goes to all of Judy Wood's, all directed energy weapons. And I just like, I lost it. So then I emailed him and I said, please just look into lawyers committee and architects, engineers and blah, blah, blah. And this is one of his maybe 3 shows ago. Here's the intro, and I'm just going to skip ahead to the part where
Monday morning. Air Force Base.
he showed a clip of loose change, and then he
We
did
can't
this.
hear it very well though, Gina.
Oh, hang on, let me reshare. Stop.
And just so you
share.
know, it's almost 5:20 also.
Yep, share sound. Share. What happened there? Stop share. Share screen. Screen 2. There we go. And he did this little clip from Loose Change, and then he
For a
added.
training mission in North Carolina, leaving them unable to defend the nation's capital.
Isn't that something? So as you go through this video, you'll catch a lot of information. There's also other ways that you can get info. You can go to our website, thepatriotlight.com. When you go to that site, I'm going to show you, you'll see they have different sections. One of those is called resources. If you hold that, bring your mouse over that, you'll see the second one down is called 911lawyers.org. When you click on that, it's got all types of things there about 9/11. All types of information that you can use and gather as a resource. It was sent to me a couple of months ago, so we changed it out to this one, trying to provide the latest information on what's going on.
We changed it out to this one because the other one was garbage. So they changed it out to this one, which
Wow.
is really
And
so.
you
work.
should maybe explain that 9/11 lawyers does automatically lead to the lawyers committee, LC for 9/11 website.
Yes, yes.
It's just the domain name that you link to make it easier to give the link, because the other one's not very user friendly.
So
for Mick-
9/11 lawyers goes to the committee
LC
also.
Ford, yes. Mick's
Yeah.
It's a
aware of
lot
all
better.
that.
They don't use that at all for some reason in the
That's
radio.
okay. Mick joined us. I want to thank Mick for joining us. I would like to get his update on it too, just for
Okay.
him for coming in. I made a breakthrough with a guy that owns a show called And We Know, and got him to drop some other disinfo sites. And he is now exclusively sending all his viewers to the 9/11 lawyers committee for 9/11 inquiry. So that's just, that's a
Yay.
huge, that is a huge thing.
Congratulations.
It's
That's so
5:20. Let's take 1 minute if you guys don't mind. Lord, I just thank you for everyone's efforts this 9/11. I thank you for protecting us, keeping us safe, as we continue to press for 9/11 truth. I pray that you would continue to guide us and continue to protect us so that people's minds and hearts could be open to the truth, that we could get justice for this in our lifetime. In your name I pray. Amen. Thank you, everybody. So for those that don't know, every day at 5:10, you would just take a quick minute. If you're not a Christian, if you're whatever you are, just want to shout for joy for 9/11 justice, go for it. That's all we're asking.
Like right now.
Like right now.
Go 9/11 truth.
So Mick, Richard just gave us a good summary of how the film series went. If you'd like to follow that up, if you don't mind, on how, like a recap of how things went with the lawyers committee event.
Happy to try to do that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's a miracle in itself. So, short version, we had a good conference. I don't know the exact number of folks attended, and it was more than 200, but it may have been more, and probably more since. We did, and particularly I did, give an update of where the litigation stands in various fora and what some of our options are for the future. One of the things I wanted to tell you before I forget it is we did seek feedback from everyone, and we'll ask that feedback from you all as well, about whether we should proceed to the U.S. Supreme Court on the decision we got from the Second Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, which was unfortunately negative on our standing to complain that the U.S. Attorney did not deliver our grand jury petition to the grand jury for which it was intended. And that decision on standing, in my view, as a lawyer of some 30 years, is simply wrong, incorrect on the law. So we have another few weeks to decide and prepare a petition to the U.S. Supreme Court. We may or may not do that. All feedback is welcome on that. We have some other options, including going to state courts, going to a federal judge with the same evidence and asking the judge to hand it to the grand jury, a little known option that actually does exist in the federal system. Going to state courts or state attorneys general or state prosecutors, another option. Going to a federal U.S. attorney in another jurisdiction. These are all options we're considering. We don't intend to drop the push for the grand jury. The question is how best to get there. And so we're looking for feedback on that. And all thoughts are welcome now and later. I wouldn't wait more than a couple weeks, though, if you want them to be considered for our decision making on that. We are still proceeding in a positive direction on our freedom of information case, which we explained in our event. This is the one in DC for David Cole on the building performance study data. Most of you may remember we were granted discovery in that case, which is somewhat unusual and a good thing. And so we did depositions of 4 NIST and FEMA officials, must be now a couple months ago, and also did some document requests and interrogatories. That discovery produced some very useful information for the FOIA case, and discovery normally does. You just don't normally get it in a FOIA case. But so now we filed our new summary judgment motion a couple weeks ago. The government's responsible to be due in a couple weeks. We'll then get the last word. We'll keep you apprised. We are cautiously optimistic we're going to win that case. And for those of you who don't remember, we're trying to get access to some key documents regarding the collapse of the Trade Center buildings that FEMA had access to for its building performance study. This is prior to NIST doing its study. And some of that includes video and photographs of steel from the collapse that had unusual damage, like high temperature erosion, sulfidation. And that evidence could be very significant to support what we think is already a dispositive evidentiary case on the use of explosives and incendiaries at the Trade Center. But still, to get that evidence from NIST and FEMA themselves would be significant. So we're looking for that as an outcome. I can't guarantee you that outcome, but if the judge believes our position, and we now have the evidence to prove it, that NIST and FEMA both did intentionally inadequate searches for the key documents, in response to David's FOIA, and we think we can now prove that. In fact, I think we have now proven it. We expect and hope to get an order from the judge directing the agencies to go back, do a legitimate search this time, find those records, and we now have a pretty good roadmap on where they are from the discovery, and to produce them to us, and we will then in turn produce them to you all. So that's where that case stands. We talked quite a bit at the anniversary event with some help from attorney Danny Sheehan, who many of you know or know of, about major litigation options for the future. One of them is a type of lawsuit I've been talking about for a while. I think I mentioned it to you all, and that is a federal lawsuit focused on cover up by the government on 9/11 evidence. And if you don't remember that, the way this type of lawsuit works, and it's been established as legitimate by the Supreme Court and the U.S. Court of Appeals for DC Circuit. If, let's just take this from a hypothetical point of view, that we could bring a lawsuit for family members who lost loved ones in 9/11, and also for first responders who've been injured or lost loved ones. And if we can show, and I think we can show at the moment, or will shortly be able to show, that key evidence has been withheld from those victims due to a government cover-up, this isn't the same as saying the government did the crime. This is talking about covering up evidence of who may have done the crime and the nature of the crime, two different concepts. So we're talking about the government engaging in cover-up after the fact. If we can prove that, then we're allowed to bring a federal lawsuit under the First Amendment. It's the right to access to the courts. It's similar to the right to petition, but in this case, specific to the courts. And if y'all don't know it, you have a right to access the courts, just like you have the right to access administrative agencies to petition for redress. So if the government is engaged in a cover-up that's preventing the victims from suing the original perpetrators for the harm, then you can sue the federal government under this theory, which is established. And you can do one or two things. You can either seek an injunction to force the government to stop the cover-up and produce the evidence that's being concealed, which would then give the family members and the first responders evidence to proceed for damages against the original wrongdoers, meaning, for example, people who put explosives and incendiaries in the Trade Center buildings that caused such horrendous loss of life. The other option is, if for some reason it's not technically feasible at that time to proceed against the original wrongdoers, even with evidence in hand, after having broken through the cover-up, you can actually sue the federal government for the money damages you could have recovered against the original wrongdoers, because their cover-up prevented you from doing that in a timely manner. So we're giving that some serious thought. Danny seemed to think it had value, as I do. We both think it requires resources that we don't currently have, unfortunately. It's a major lawsuit. It would be analysis and scope to the lawsuit against the Saudis that the family members are bringing to New York with the help of big law firms. So it's not a trivial matter to do. We're talking about probably millions, certainly hundreds of thousands of dollars, but maybe millions. So unless a cadre of large donors comes forward, we won't be able to do that lawsuit. If we do get that type of donation, I think I could put a team together, and I think Danny thinks he could put a team together. Whether we would both be on the team, I guess we'll have to figure out, but we might. So one way or the other, that could be done. It also could be done, by the way, from any other law firm or nonprofit that has the resources to do it. It wouldn't have to wait on us to do it, and I don't recommend that people wait on us to do it. So we talked about that. Danny's Sheehan's, and I'm speaking a little bit for him in his absence. Apologize to him for that. But my understanding of what he was saying was we really need to get to the heart of the matter. And he believes the heart of the matter is the whodunit part. And we need to do a very aggressive investigation to be able to answer the question of who committed these crimes. I don't disagree with him. We just never had the resources to do that full scale. We're open to it. We're exploring how to do it. Open to feedback from you all on how to do it. So in the meantime, we'll be continuing with our Freedom of Information Act campaign, doing the best we can with limited resources. We'll see the cases through we've started. We are about to file a new case, which you may remember, a 9/11 FOIA case against the FBI. I'll give you the short version. The FBI announced it was going to send to the federal archives a large stash of records, which the FBI calls their major bombing cases records, a lot of photographs and other records. We asked them for a copy of it all, since they were going to archive it. And they said, okay, pay us a couple of $1,000, we'll give it to you. So they may have thought we weren't going to pay them a couple of $1,000. We said, okay, we'll pay what it costs. We want records for the Trade Center and the Pentagon. And you might be surprised to realize that the Trade Center on 9/11 and the Pentagon are within what the FBI calls its major bombing cases. You have to give that some thought. Now, but they are. So we offered to pay, and then they came back and said, oh, sorry, can't really give you any of that stuff because it's all still part of an active investigation and it's law enforcement sensitive. So after offering to give it to us if we paid, and our offer to pay, they then backtracked and said, we can't give it to you. So we're about to sue them to get those records. We'll keep you apprised on that. What else did we do? I know.
Mick?
Barbara, question?
Yeah, I just have a little, I don't quite understand how they can archive records of an investigation that's currently still ongoing. How does that make any sense?
Doesn't make any sense.
Exactly correct.
That's why we're suing them, Sandra.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, what's funny about that is that the 9/11 Commission, when the investigation concluded and et cetera, all the 9/11 investigation records got transferred to the National Archives. And when that happened, the National Archives, because when the 9/11 investigation was under the legislative branch, and FOIA is not subject to legislative branch of government, it's subject to the executive. So when they got trained, all those documents got transferred to the National Archives. That's an executive branch agency, and therefore became open to FOIA. That's where David Cole was very instrumental in getting a lot of that information.
I think that's correct.
And yeah, and the and FBI had just released a whole other mess of data, over 2,000 documents, just declassified them just the past few months regarding the Operation Encore, which was their follow-up to their pet mom investigation. And it dealt with all the Saudi Arabia involvement and, Al-Buaimi and all those folks. And the show's I sent the 247-page document that deals with that connection to the Saudi Arabian institution here in Washington, D.C. and in Saudi Arabia. And they knew, what was going on with respect to the connections with the hijacking financing.
Yeah, so let me just give a sort of a closeout on what we did at the anniversary. We did promise to do an interactive with the audience that turned out to be less interactive than I had hoped due to technological issues. So we're going to be announcing a new Zoom that I will do on my Zoom account that'll just be regular Zoom. We did the last event on the webinar, which doesn't quite have all the interactive real-time opportunities that I'd hoped. So I'm basically going to make myself available. I won't speak for the other board members, but they will join as their schedule allows when we do that. Should be in the next 2 weeks. And I will make myself available for hours to basically entertain questions from anybody about what we're doing, why we're doing it, what we're not doing, why we're not doing it, where we expect to go, where people would like us to go. And I'm particularly interested in wanting to know that. One of the concepts I'm looking for feedback on, I mentioned this at the anniversary event, just speaking for myself. I have to sort of decide what I'm going to do when I grow up, and it's about time I made that decision. So there are some options, but one of them is that I make my legal services, such as they are within my limits of my schedule, available to the broader 9/11 community and not just to the 9/11 lawyers committee or to architects and engineers, which I've been pretty focused on doing. I am currently representing, I don't know if Gene wants to talk about this, Gene, in a freedom of information request, which may or may not turn into a lawsuit. And I'm open to expanding, helping folks in other groups do 9/11 related projects, whether it's a lawsuit or a FOIA request or an investigation or something else. So if you think of something that you want to do or your group wants to do, and you're thinking, well, maybe Mick could help with that, feel free to contact me. And I'm going to be presenting this idea to our board of directors, and I'll let you know what I decide, but I may be branching out and becoming less Lawyers Committee centered and more 9/11 community broader centered. I'll let you know, and I appreciate your thoughts on that. So I'm trying to think what I left out. Richard did talk about the movie project at our event as well. And what am I forgetting? Well, if I think of it, I'll throw it back in, but that's the short version, Gene, for what happened.
Thank you for that, Richard. Anything to follow up that Mick might have forgot there that you can recall?
No, I think he got it well.
I have three small questions. One, it's really broad. We heard that Pent bomb, PENTT bomb is the name of the file, and I've heard it referred to as Pentagon and Twin Towers bombing. PEN for Pentagon, TT for Twin Towers and bomb. I don't know if anybody has ever heard that.
Yeah,
I
I
think
have.
Barbara's the one who said it.
Okay.
Well, I've seen it in FBI records.
But does the double T really refer to Twin Towers as far
It
as?
does. It
Oh,
does.
it does. Okay.
Interesting. Okay. You had said that Judge Lee in the Second Circuit had stated that they were bound by the Supreme Court's ruling. So they really had no wiggle room. I'm paraphrasing horribly.
Which case are you talking about, Gene?
I'm sorry, grand jury. When you did your oral argument in front of the judges, Walker, Lee, and Sullivan.
Okay.
Judge Lee had said, well, aren't you bound by, or I think she said, we are bound by, now I'm totally forgetting.
Well, I can help you with that.
Thank you.
I now know what you're talking about. So it was the Second Circuit opinion that Judge Lee was talking about, as I recall, although we both may have to go back and refresh our memories. But that was the Henry grand jury case that, well, there are two cases involved. There was a 1985-86 decision from the Southern District of New York, the same court we started in, which actually adopted our view of the right of a citizen to sue if a U.S. attorney failed to deliver their report of a crime to a grand jury. So in the past, the Federal District Court in New York had actually agreed with us. Now, and we explained that to the District Court in New York when we went there more recently, and the District Court decided it didn't have to follow that previous precedent from its own court because of a Second Circuit decision called Zaleski. And that Second Circuit Court of Appeals decision called Zaleski is something that I was asked about by, it may have been Judge Lee, by one of the judges on the panel, as you're indicating, and one of the judges, may have been Lee, said, aren't we bound by that Second Circuit decision, meaning that that's, they are the Second Circuit. It's their court. Shouldn't we follow our previous decision in Zaleski? And my answer to that, if you wanted me to explain why they're not, is that Zaleski was a case where a citizen brought a complaint to the court, did not have a lawyer. He was acting on his own behalf as his own lawyer, pro se, as we say. And he did not, in the first instance, ask the U.S. attorney to deliver his information to the grand jury. What he did was he went to the district court and said, I want my information given to the grand jury. And the U.S. attorney refused, and the court decided essentially he didn't have standing because, but here's the key. In that case, he didn't have standing, not because no one has standing to enforce the special grand jury statute. He didn't have standing because he didn't invoke the special grand jury statute. Now, what do I mean by that? Under the special grand jury statute, and you have to read it carefully to notice this, it says, if asked, the U.S. attorney has an obligation to report a citizen's report of a crime to the grand jury. So there's no obligation to do that for the U.S. attorney to share with the grand jury a citizen report unless the citizen requests it. Now, in Zaleski, the citizen never requested it. So he never invoked the procedure in the statute. Of course, had he had a lawyer, he probably would have done that. Now, so the court in the Second Circuit opinion in Zaleski said, we don't think he has standing because he didn't do what the statute requires him to do to have the protection of the statute. And that's where the Second Circuit should have stopped, because they decided the case on the only criteria that mattered. The Second Circuit went on to talk about other things that might be possible, other reasons why he might not have standing, if this or if that. But that was all speculation and what we call dicta. Dicta is a discussion by a judge or a court in a decision that isn't necessary to make the decision. It has no precedential value. It has no legal weight. And so what I explained to the Second Circuit in my oral argument was, no, you're not bound by Zaleski as applied to our case, because Zaleski is distinguishable. We did invoke the protection of the special grand jury statute by requesting the U.S. attorney to deliver our petition to the grand jury. We're distinguishable from Zaleski. Anything else said in Zaleski other than Zaleski didn't ask for his information to be delivered is dicta and has no binding effect on you. So that's how that went, Gene.
Thank you very much. I want to take up too much time for my questions. I want to go on to Kale, Al, and Ed real quick if you have some time.
I just want to make sure that the three of them, if you have questions that are directly for Mick, then go ahead. If it's a change of subject, then if you can hold off.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll probably need to get off as soon as you can let me off.
Okay. 10-4. You guys got something short for Mick, if that's okay, Mick?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Kale, you're
Kale, you're
first.
up.
Do you have something for Mick?
Yeah, Mick, we had an opportunity to meet the mayor this September 11th.
Yeah.
And I was trying to search, I searched Al's, Richard's pages. Yeah, I went around trying to find a link or to a PDF of the 60 exhibits of evidence, like kind of laid out almost in layman's terms, but you know, just something quick. Is there anything like that out there for us to share?
That's yeah, that's a pretty good question. Here's
Because
the question.
yeah, like behind me, we had this set up, and they could go to that, and this was right by the firefighters that were at the ceremony, and the mayor and everyone could look right at it. But when we went around to hand out information, we tried so hard to find some kind of thing could have printed out just to hand to everybody.
Well, it's needed. We do have an executive summary of the petition, which you can download from our website, which is probably the closest thing we have to what you're talking about.
I saw that.
Okay, we also have an exhibit list, which is on the website, which has active links to each of the exhibits. But if you're asking, do we have a nice sort of annotated exhibit list, which explains the purpose of each exhibit and its significance? I don't know that we've ever done that. And it's a pretty good, it's a pretty good idea.
That would be awesome. Something quick, and then we could share a link with it. Because I literally went up to the mayor, and him and I talked a bit, and he accepted what we had. But that would have
probably something we could work on, because I yell 911lawyers.org/evidence, and that takes you to the lawyers committee's list that Mick just answered. But yeah, it would be nice, like you said, to have it annotated, and we can work on that and try to help you out, Mick.
Well, Sandra, I did hand your quiz to the mayor.
Nice.
Thank you, Kale. Al, you got something?
Yeah, Mick, and at the NFPA, Eric Lawyer and Rule and Julo sat down with a big sprinkler company that had done the sprinkler systems at the World Trade Center. And they were involved in a lawsuit coming from Silverstein Corporation. And they were very interested in what we were doing there. And my thought was, they've got really deep pockets and would be somebody, my first thought to approach for big donors. I don't know if Eric has any follow-up to discuss right now, but that's an avenue of somebody with very deep pockets that's directly involved. The second question I had was, I listened to the Sheehan interview, and is he doing pro bono work for you guys? Or, I mean, he sounded a little discouraging about, what it was going to take to really get to the root of 9/11, and I'm
Yeah.
wondering, is he on your board, or is he, what is his role? I guess it was just an advisor.
I understand your question. So Danny is on our legal advisory board, but not on our policymaking board of directors. Okay, so he gives us cheap advice, in this case, meaning free advice. And what he does for us has been pro bono, but it has not involved litigating. I'd love to have Danny join us in a lawsuit. He hasn't done that yet. But he doesn't mean to be discouraging as I read his comments, even though I probably took them the way you did. But I think what he means to be is realistic. And what he's trying to get us to realize is that if you really want the breakthrough that everyone's been striving for, it's going to take a significant amount of resources to attack head on the whodunit part, and then to bring it into court under a theory like I've been describing. It's actually this cover-up theory I'm talking about is the Jennifer Harbury case is sort of the Supreme Court precedent. There's some other cases on it, but he seems to be supportive of that. But, you know, he's done a number of high-profile, large, ambitious lawsuits, each of which required several $1 million to do. And I think he's just telling us what he thinks is going to take to do everything we're trying to do. I don't necessarily agree with him that what we've been doing, and I don't know whether he would say this as I'm about to say it, but, you know, I think we've been doing what we can with the resources we have. And I think what he's saying is, you know, you need to basically stop and focus on getting the resources you need to do the big picture, final push. We may, and he may be right, we may be at that point in history now. I don't know. But until we get those kind of resources, I'm going to continue to do what I can to try to get a break in the dam with the resources we have.
You know, thank you, Mick. Ed, you took your hand down? Or you
I
back
still
up?
see a hand
Back
up
up
for it.
real quick. Quick question for you, Mick. I'm sorry. What when you talk about resources, like what kind of resources exactly do you need? Because they may already be available. So a lot of them may already be available.
Well, there's no big secret about it. If you're going to do a major lawsuit like the Jennifer Harbury type of government cover-up case you're talking about, it's like a major class action. It's like the 9/11 family suit against the Saudis. I think Danny's correct. You're talking about raising a few $1 million.
Well, what do you need data? What do you need data wise?
Well, we have a good start on it.
With respect to who done it.
Well, that's
This
a
might
good
be
question.
better. This might be better for your next, for that next call you want to have, Mick.
Well, I'm happy to do that either way, but it's a key question, Ed. I think I don't know how many people you got on this call at the moment. It looks like about 13 or so. You probably would have 13 different answers to that if we ask everybody, you know, what do we need evidence wise? My view is there's quite a bit out there, some of which I'm generating through our litigation efforts that show government cover up, some of which evidence we didn't have a few years ago. And I'll give you one example. In this lawsuit, FOIA lawsuit we got going against FEMA and NIST, we found out that, first of all, FEMA said that told David they'd done a comprehensive search of their own records for the records he asked for, all the building performance study data. Turns out they didn't do any search of the records. They didn't search emails at FEMA. They didn't search computers at FEMA. They didn't search paper copies at FEMA. What they actually did and misrepresented was they relied on that one of their contractors, Greenhorn and O'Mara, sent a set of records to NIST, which covered some, but not all of the records. And they pretended they'd given up their original copies to NIST and kept nothing at FEMA, which turned out to be, after our discovery, basically a lie. Now that's a cover-up, okay? That's one example of cover-up. The other one we got out of this lawsuit is, even though, you know, NIST got involved because records were transferred to them, so they had to become a defendant as well. They then purported to do a comprehensive search of NIST records and give what they found back to FEMA to give to David. The problem with that NIST search is we found out through discovery, and we wouldn't have known it had we not gotten discovery. A certain engineer at NIST, whose name will be familiar to you, directed a staff person at NIST who was doing the search, or what should have been a search, to do the search in a very limited way. And the instruction, which we now have on the record from the staff person under oath is that she was told to take one inventory, a 2-page list, that was the list of what Greenhorn and O'Mara sent to NIST, one transfer, go to the computer database at NIST, which is fairly comprehensive, and then to just use the database to locate those particular documents and stop. Not to do a search of the database for all building performance study records, and there was more there, but just find those particular documents and stop. And that's what they called their search. Now, we have proven in that case that there was a later transfer of records from another contractor, Gill Sands Murray Stefsek, of a large volume of photos and videos, some of which are probably the key missing stuff we're looking for. It came later than the Greenhorn transfer. And that transfer was addressed from Gill Sands to this particular engineer who directed the staff person to limit their search. In other words, the person limiting the search knew that there was more there that the limitation would prevent the search or finding. And that was, in my view, a cover-up. So we're getting concrete examples of cover-up from the litigation. There are other examples that we've known for some years. There's the example that, at least to me, is an example where the 9/11 Commission referred to the, I think it was the Inspector General, probably should have referred to U.S. Attorney, a concern that folks from the FAA and the DOD had lied to the 9/11 Commission. So that's an example of a piece of evidence that may support a cover-up theory. I mean, we could probably list between us on
Well,
this
we
call.
know George Tenet did, and we have the information regarding that.
If we all put our, minds together and went through in mind from our own records, examples of cover-up, we'd probably come up with 100 examples just from the people on this call. Now, the question is that legally sufficient to meet the standard in Jennifer Harbury type of case? The answer is I don't know. And I suspect some more work might have to be done. Part of what we want the money to do is we need a team of lawyers. This is not a one lawyer thing. Okay. We need a team of lawyers to evaluate that body of evidence that you're referring to, Ed, that is in hand or can be put in hand. And answer the question you're asking is, are we ready to go into court on this theory, or have we not met the threshold yet, the legal threshold yet? I don't think I'm ready to give you that answer because I'm not that team and I don't have that those resources, but we need to get there.
Real quick, Mike Zarzano, and then we'll let Mick go. Mike, you in Florida?
Yeah, hi. Mick, I want to describe to you what we did down here in South Florida with Governor DeSantis. Back in April the 4th to be exact, we petitioned him, and I say we, several hundred people began filing in his office certified and registered letters requesting a statewide grand jury, because in the state of Florida, the governor has a very special exclusive right to petition the Supreme Court of Florida to convene a grand jury. And that's exactly what he did right after the Parkland shooting, because there was a cover-up taking place.
Okay.
So, and when I thought about that back several months ago, prior to April, I realized, hey, that might be a good way for us to get his attention about 4 main issues. And these might be partisan issues, but I think this could be a link to achieving remedy for the 9/11 crime. We petitioned him on 4 different conspiracy crimes: the election crime, the COVID scamdemic, the war on our children in the school systems with the transgender curriculum and perverse ideology. And then 4th was the illegal border that was allowing many crimes to infiltrate and affect Florida citizens, such as, drugs. One weekend we had 9 people die in one particular county from fentanyl. So we petitioned him on all 4 of these crimes to convene a grand jury for each one, a statewide grand jury. And on June 17th, I believe it was, he chose to convene a statewide grand jury to investigate the border crimes of drugs, trafficking, and child and sex trafficking. So this clearly shows that the people, when organized, in a manner that shows a cross section of the people are wanting a particular thing done. It can move mountains. And we had a list, and I put it in the chat. If you go to our website, we have a direct site for this action. It's called thefloridafix.com. And you can read about the details of what we did and all of the sponsors and endorsements we got from various businesses, churches, political groups, activist groups. One of our first petitions went to the America Project, which is run by General Flynn, Patrick Byrne, and General Flynn's brother, Mike Flynn. And we were able to persuade them to help us along with several other, Joe Flynn, I'm sorry, his brother. And we were able to get, several of these major political groups, and they might be partisan, but I think the same can be achieved in a transpartisan manner. And my question for you is, we might be interested in hiring you to help us deliver the request to this grand jury that's going to be convened in the month of October. And it's going to be in the 10th Circuit Court of Florida, which is 3 counties, Polk County, Highlands County, and Hardy County. And all 3 of these counties are very favorable. And this was something we were hoping he would do. You don't want to say that you're jury shopping, but that's exactly what Danny talked about last weekend. You want to find a favorable jury, grand jury.
And by the way, Mike, that was, just for the record, that was Danny that said that, not me.
I know it was Danny, right? But what are your thoughts about that? Could you help us get a request before the grand jury in the 10th Circuit Court?
Let me ask you a couple questions first.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this action would not be related to 9/11. Am I correct?
No, it's not, but it's a model that could be
I
used,
understand.
and we're planning to use it for just that purpose. It's
I
a little
understand.
preliminary right now, but yeah.
Well, I mean, we could talk, but I'm not a Florida lawyer, meaning I'm not a member of the Florida bar. I do know some lawyers in Florida. I might be able to refer you to. If there was something, and I'm not sure what it would be, that you thought I was sort of uniquely qualified to do on that, not being 9/11, first I'd have to fit it into my schedule. The second, we'd have to get a Florida lawyer to be a partner with me on it. It might be cheaper and easier for you just to get a Florida lawyer to do it. But, you're welcome to call me. We can talk about it, but I suspect I'm probably not the guy for that job. Now, your point, though, the bigger point you made about your sort of showing an example of how a petition for a grand jury might be successfully achieved in Florida or some states, it's an important point. We are talking about a nonpartisan issue, across party lines issue with 9/11. I think, I don't know exactly why the governor took the one he took from your list and proceeded with it. But, politics are partisan, unfortunately. And too many elected officials don't remember that once they're elected, they're supposed to be representing everybody, not just their party. So sometimes they will take on a grand jury petition or another thing like that if it serves their partisan interest, and they won't take on other similar proposals because it doesn't serve their partisan interest. I don't know if that's what happened in your case in terms of why some of your issues got acted on and some not. But I only mention that because 9/11 is a challenging issue to get a politician to embrace, even using the procedure you're talking about. But I would not discourage folks from examining the law in each of their states, particularly ones affected by 9/11, and seeing if they have an avenue like Mike is talking about, because it may exist in some states. I think it probably does in New York. It may in New Jersey, and I'm looking at Pennsylvania. So appreciate the thoughts, Mike.
Yeah, Mick, just final comment. The reason I thought to ask you was because of your, recent experience in the last several years with navigating the grand jury waters, so to speak. I thought you might be a good candidate for that, even though, I assumed you probably weren't a Florida bar member, but
Yeah.
We'll talk. I have some associates involved with me. We actually have a retired judge, a former judge that's helping us. So we'll maybe do a 3-way sometime soon.
I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Take
Thank
care.
you, Mick, so much for your time. Look forward to the upcoming Zoom call that you're going to have. And thank you again for everything you're doing. We're all indebted to you. Thank you.
Well, appreciate your efforts as well. Take care, everybody.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Gene.
Yeah, Mikey.
Oh, never mind. I wanted to ask him some. I'll ask him the
Oh,
next
hang on. If
Oh.
there's a question for me, I can hang on.
Go ahead, Mikey.
It's not really a question. It's just, you know, I'm actually working on my truck right now while I'm listening. I'm probably one of the youngest people involved. I'm not saying I am, but probably one of the youngest people involved in the Truth Project here. And I just got to say, I mean, I know you're not doing this I know you're getting some money out of helping us, but I really appreciate that you're doing this because, you know, without somebody with your expertise, this would be, you know, a battle that couldn't be fought. So I really appreciate you helping us.
No, I appreciate your saying that, Mike. Just for the record, I get paid sporadically on this issue off and on. The problem is, you know, I get paid public interest rates when I do get paid, and a lot of times not. And if I were, you know, not doing this work, I would be making money as a lawyer on doing other things. So the short version is, you know, I've contributed out of my own pocket, literally, I don't know, $150,000 to $200,000. And in terms of my time, you know, I've lost probably another $250,000 in income I would have made. So even though technically it might appear that I'm getting paid from time to time, even during those times, I'm losing money. So just for the record, this is not a financial investment scheme on my part.
Same with Richard.
Yeah.
Richard Gage will be making a lot more with the AIA after his name doing something for architecture firm.
Yeah, I doubt that Richard's career is blossoming because of his work on this issue. His income probably hasn't blossomed compared to what he would have done either. And that's one reason, I'm sorry to say, why we probably don't have more lawyers involved, and we could have more lawyers involved. So we'll keep working on that part. So take care, folks.
Take it easy. All right.
I was going to ask him if he still wanted us to reach out to lawyers who may want to get involved and help and support the lawyers committee. Because we had spoken about that for a while, but then nothing really came of it at the time. He told us to hold off because I think he wanted to write the letter himself so that it was properly phrased in terms of what they'd be looking for. And
when he does his follow-up call, we'll get the chance to ask all those questions.
Yeah, let's just not drop the ball on that.
And Lou Wells just asked lc4for911.org is the URL. Otherwise, you could just type in 911lawyers.org and it'll go to the same place. And Richard, I know you had said you'd stick around for an hour. I don't know if you're heading out. But thank you all as well.
You're so welcome, Gene. Thanks for being here for everybody, bringing everybody together. We'll catch up with you guys soon.
All right,
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, guys. Bye, guys.
Gail.
Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Awesome. So let's see, what else did we have going on? Boston 9/11 Truth. You want to give us an update on how your event went?
Yeah, well, we were down at the 9/11 memorial. The State House was closed, so we couldn't put up a truth booth. And it was lightly attended, let's put it that way. But it was good. I personally wasn't there. Chris Berger and Lorenzo were there. They had the TV screen with the video of the Building 7.
Oh.
And they were handing out literature, but it's not a well-traveled part of the Boston Commons, so it was no surprise. And we did it on a Monday because Sunday was sort of not a busy day down there. So anyway, that was part of it. in the afternoon, we were out on the Mass Turnpike with our 20-foot banners. And it was good, lots of traffic. I mean, the commuter traffic into Boston. And what we found out more than we had was that it was somewhat muted. There wasn't a lot of fingers, not a lot of fuck yous, and there weren't a lot of, honking in our favor either. So, but there was one moment where I felt very encouraged, and I was out on the bridge. Somehow, I think there was a junior high school near where we were on the Walnut Street Bridge in Newton. And the kids going by were just absolutely enthralled with what we were doing. And they wanted all our literature, they wanted our DVDs, and they weren't even born when 9/11 happened.
Right.
And yet, I think anything that their parents don't approve of, they want to see. And I think it was a really good opportunity. And I started thinking, geez, we should be hanging around elementary and junior high schools like pedophiles. And that's a joke. But I really think that these kids are the next best audience out there. I mean, that was just a very unique experience, but it made me feel pretty good about what we were doing. And so that was pretty much what we had, and kind of partied it up afterwards. I'm glad we were out there, because it was a matter of just letting people know that we're still around, that that it hasn't gone away as an issue, and that people were. That's our lawyer committee sign. I had a new one made up.
Yep, nice.
It's
I
a
love the
little.
9/11 Truth for Peace one, though.
You like that one?
I love that one, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have a number of them. One of them was 9/11 Truth Ends Wars of Occupation. And that kind of pissed off a lot of veterans, because I think they thought we were accusing them of being occupiers. And so I didn't put that up, but we had 9/11 equals controlled demolition. Did you know a third building fell on 9/11? And these other two. And it was, I don't know whether it didn't excite a lot of people, but I mean, again, my whole motive of being there is, hey, we haven't gone away, we're here, and we're always going to be here, so on our literature, we had the A&E glossy 4-page foldout, and then we had the lawyers committee, which was a good combination, because if you're just out there handing out the information about 9/11, what I think is more poignant is the fact that the lawyers committee is actually an ongoing case, and that it explains that it's in the court system, and that people sort of take note of that. They think, oh, well, yeah, things are happening with 9/11 now. And
yeah, it makes
for
it
me,
relevant for the moment. It's not, yeah.
Exactly. So that's kind of where we try to focus our energy, is donations and being with the for the lawyers committee, and how important that is. And most of our members are, that's where they want to spend their time. So, which I think is important. So anyway, that pretty much sums it up. That's what we had, and glad we did it. So, and I love the pictures you guys had of New York. I know you didn't have as many people down there, and neither did we, but it certainly was encouraging, because every time I see you guys, I think, geez, we can do better than them. No, I don't think that, but
Friendly rivalry?
sorry.
Friendly rivalry?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So no, but it's good to know that there are other people out there, and it really encourages you to do more. And that's really, sometimes you get down in this job and, or volunteering but
Yeah.
it's great to see other people out there.
We had to deal with a second group that came in and kind of really hijacked. I mean, thank God we had already been out there for 5 hours. It only happened at the end. But we had the whole numerologist group come down on ground zero with their thugs of 30 people or more. And yeah, gave us a really hard time because we were not on the same page with the message. And, you know, people walking by would not be able to make a distinction between our group and theirs because we're just a bunch of people with 9/11 Truth shirts. So yeah, that was kind of like the negative ending to it. I don't know if Gene wants to
How
weigh
many
in a
was,
bit.
how many there was for you guys? How many people showed up for 9/11
Nobody. We
specifically?
were like 8 or 10 maybe.
How does 30 numerology people show up and only get
Well,
8?
that's a
God
very good
bless.
question. You know, we think it was kind of organized.
I just want to say something short on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Counterintelligence is like a death by 1,000 slices. You won't notice it. It's like the boiling a frog, you know. They come in and they do it something subtle. It's kind of like when people talk about Alex Jones. It's 95% truth, and then he throws in something that just blasts you out of the water. And it's like these guys come in and they say they're with 9/11, they're for 9/11 truth, and then they make it a footnote and start sharing some truth about. And I'm not into numerology or gematria and all that stuff. But they start saying some things that are okay. Yeah, I can see that, and I can see that, and I can see that. And then all of a sudden they start saying these outlandish things, and it's like, oh, there's my background and everything. All our backdrop, everything that's associated with us now is associated with you. And now you've just tarnished all of that. And I couldn't get out of there fast enough. I went to get my truck and tried to make it around the block. And the guy was so arrogant. He said, I brought all these people here and they're here to see me. And I'm thinking, you arrogant prick. Like, and all these people were just like, they had the Kool-Aid stare. Like the fluoride stare. They didn't say anything. And I said, for anybody out there with a brain, just know that 9/11 truth, things that I was sharing with you about the evidence and where it's at in the courts and stuff like this, hear that. You can take whatever you want of what he shared with you. Go ahead and take that, but just hear what I shared with you. And when we were finally leaving, a couple people, one guy that wasn't American, he's put his hand over his heart. He said, I just want to thank you very much for what you shared. It meant a lot to me. And I'm doing a really bad job of imitating some foreign accent, but he was really moved by what we shared, and it was awesome.
Yeah, there was 3 or 4 of them who came to see us after, and they said it's really too bad that this group just hijacked the whole thing that you were doing all afternoon, but you know.
And we saw people would come around. We speaking all afternoon, but people would come around and you'd see them 3 or 4 times, like the same people, just wanting to hear the same message again. They were enthralled. There was one kid that was really upset about us doing it on the day that victims' family members were here. And then I look across the street and there he is sitting on the light post staring right at me. And I said, I looked right in the eye and said, look, I know why some of you are angry.
I just got busy with that.
And hang on, let me just mute him. You're good. I know some of you are angry, and I know talking about this, why you would be angry, and I could accept that, but we're just looking for justice, just like you would be looking for justice. And I tried to appeal to his better sense, and he didn't get any more angry, and he just walked away. So I think we finally might have broken through to him, but
yeah, he kept going, do you know what day this is? Do you know what day this is? It's like, yeah, we know exactly what day it is, and this is exactly why we're here. Like he just thought we were there by some random coincidence on the 11th of September. It's like, no, we're here for the same reason that you are, and we're all looking for justice.
And as much as I butt heads with Adam Fitzgerald, it was a sight for sore eyes to see Adam come up and shake my hand and made a big smile, and it's just that's cool. Like,
yeah, he stuck around, and he came around, and then he came back, and yeah, we saw him for a little bit.
He even said he gave a shout out on some interview, I guess. He said that there's a guy, Gene Laratoni, he speaks really loud and he's very vocal about it. And we disagree on some things, but he wouldn't share anything about the 60 Exhibit 7 and that's whatever. Okay. But
all 6'10" of them, huh?
Yeah, he's a big dude. He is a big dude.
Yeah, he's unbelievably like He's a giant, absolute giant.
Good to see him.
Gene,
Kale.
that happened to us a couple of years ago. We had our booth up at the State House and we got drowned out by, I guess they were QAnon people. And they had a megaphone, and the whole time we were there, we were considered part of them, and we kept telling people, you know, we're here for 9/11, we're not, you know,
Right.
into other subjects. And so I know exactly how that felt. I was, you know, it really had been
And
diluted.
then cameras, 3 cameras right in my face immediately, trying to get my reaction. And you know how I lose my shit sometimes, so that didn't work out in my favor. But I'm just like, I have absolutely nothing to say to you. Just get the fuck out of my face. I just like that was bad. Anyway, I wanted to go to
It
Kale.
could have been a good opportunity, man. I was like,
I
shoot.
know, no, not with the Gematria guy. I don't know. I wanted to go to Kale because he also something. Just got this video I want to play in the background where he talks about what he got to do this.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to bring up infiltration. We were helping to occupy some of the banks back in the day for Standing Rock. And what happened with Standing Rock, they got infiltrated by a group called Tiger Swan. It was a mercenary group, connected to straight to the government, but they did all that they could to tarnish the whole movement, make it look violent. They even brought a guy with a gun onto the premises and tried to just, you know, what do you call it? Instigate violence. Is a peaceful movement, and they could not handle. They couldn't let it happen, so they had to send in actual mercenaries.
Wow.
Tiger Swan, look that up, Tiger Swan.
All right.
But yeah, we got to meet the mayor, and this was a ceremony downtown at the monument in near Waikiki, Honolulu. The only information we had was the pop quiz and the pamphlet. 9/11 was an inside job with all the links. But our main sign was this right here, and it was presented right in front of the mayor and who's the other guy? City council. I mean, all the top guys were there.
How
and
beautiful that
cameras,
is. Man.
cameras crew. It was only us. It was myself, my wife, and the 2 kids. And we tried to get a hold of one of the groups out here that have been doing a bunch of marches and convoys during the mandates for our freedom and rights, and the children and all that. We contacted them. They're more of a conservative group, and Trump supporters and, you know, whatnot. But when it came to 9/11, they're like, that's disrespectful. And here they're talking about COVID being inside job, and, you know, all that all over their pages, all over their marches, talking about how the pandemic was a false flag. But when it came to 9/11, we were the bad guys.
Wow.
Here's one of our kids' shirts.
I love this right here. I don't know how you managed to get that picture.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We were right there. And no, you know what? A lady out of I think they were public relations, she said, you know what, you guys, you should sit right here. And we're like, at first I thought she was trying to kick us out. And I said, we already got an okay by HPD. She's like, no, you guys can sit right here. And she moved us up front. I was like, okay. And we placed it right by those are the head from the different departments, because they do a big thing for the firefighters out here.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was just right there. I mean, you could not miss our sign.
Just need a few lions in the 9/11 truth movement. And Kale, you are definitely one of the lions, brother.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, because it's just you guys. You know,
the
you
mayor?
don't have a whole troop behind you. It's just you, your wife, your kids, and that's it.
Yep.
Oh, that's
That
the
is
mayor
the
right
mayor.
there.
That is the mayor.
And you gave him the info.
I gave him the info.
Right
I said,
on.
hey, Rick, come here, Rick.
Right on.
that I just want you to go over this material here and introduce my family and myself and 9/11 Truth. Very cordial, no cowbell.
Yeah.
I dig it. I hear you.
Yeah. So at least, there it is on record. He received this.
Wow.
But
awesome.
it's mainly the links, right? So, and that test is awesome, Sandra.
I'm glad.
I have a question. Is that song Truthers, is that you singing?
It is, yeah.
It is. Okay. There
Yeah.
we go.
Yeah.
All right. So I can credit that.
Yeah.
Who's
It's for that, believe it or not, I had to go to Fiverr because I couldn't find someone to do the male backing vocals. And I needed some, because anyways, that song, that was not even the final version of what it should have been, because the better version got destroyed when the person I was doing this with, his computer crashed and he could not get it back. But so that's like my that was my backup version. But I've been sitting on it for so long that I'm like, to hell with it, I'll just go ahead with even like this imperfect version. Yeah, but in these things I go by the name of Sandra J.
Okay. Credit you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for tackling this.
Oh, thank you for seeing
I'm
us.
fading fast here, but does anybody else have anything
Yep.
they'd like to share for their 9/11?
Hey, I
Yeah.
do, Gene.
Yes.
Yesterday, there was a new video released on YouTube. I don't know if anyone has seen it yet. 9/11 and Israel's Great Game. Anyone familiar with that one?
Was released by who?
A gentleman, I believe he's French, at least he sounded like it. Laurent Guyenot, Laurent Guyenot. And the channel on YouTube is called Zionist Onslaught. And this particular video is about an hour and 45 minutes, and it was released, I think in the middle of the night, roughly. But it's phenomenal. I've not seen a better whodunit 9/11 video than this one. It is very detailed, very documented, very professional. I think it's going to be a very powerful tool because a lot of people are asking, well, who did it? And there are a lot of new minds being changed within the Republican conservative party, contrary to what was reported moments ago. But it might not be happening in Hawaii, but it's certainly happening here in Florida. More and more people in the Republican Party are waking up to 9/11. So I would check this video out. It's excellent. I can't say enough about it. I yield.
Thank you. I was trying to find it on YouTube. I couldn't find it. I think I found it on Odyssey, but now it's not popping up. Mikey, I gotta mute you because your tin knocking's killing me. There we go. Here we go. So I will share this in the chat if anybody wants to watch this. Don't quote me on this, but I think Mick had said that they would be prepared to go after the whodunits, but that would be part of this cover-up legislation, which in reality they didn't want to put a number on it. The number I heard is somewhere between a $5 and $10 million legal team. If you just want the brass,
that's what I heard too.
you just want it down to the dollar. It's somewhere between $5 and $10 million that we need to come up with to get them to be able to go after the whodunits. So in the chat, I will Control V, enter if anybody wants to watch that. Thank
Can I ask
you.
you guys a serious question about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
What is the realistically, what's the chances of coming up with that kind of money to do that lawsuit?
I hear you, brother. I totally hear you.
I mean, you mentioned something interesting about, well, actually, Mike, I think you mentioned it about having to be organized, getting a massive organization, people being organized to be able to bring these petitions, et cetera, et cetera. And that's something I've been harping on for a very, very long time about the revitalization of the militia structures in order to do these things. That's what their job is. Unfortunately, they've been transmogrified out of existence since 1903. But that's been something I've been focused on for almost 15 years now. And And so it always, so I find it interesting that it always comes back to that. At the end of the day, the people politically organized to be able to effectuate their political will. But the mechanism by which to do that is the militia of the several states, because they're the ones with the rights, powers, privileges, and immunities to do that. So just something to think about.
My thoughts on that, in a time when women are getting paid millions of dollars to show their butthole on, sorry, I just gotta say it like that, on this OnlyFans, and these prank guys go on YouTube and they making livings off of this, and Jake Paul and whatever his brother's name is, and the Island Boys, they can't even sing and they become millionaires. And like, my goodness, can't somebody come up with a marketing thing for 9/11 Truth and raise some millions of dollars here? Like, I just
So we should get, so should 9/11 Truth have their own OnlyFans page?
Gene,
if people would pay for my butthole, yeah, sure. No, they're not. I can't believe that's going to be on the show. I gotta edit that out. Anyway, yeah, $5-10 million is a lot of money, but then when you think about all these other things going on in our world, just one little marketing thing, media campaign, and that would be nothing.
Remember, who controls the algorithm controls the spice.
Yeah, I hear you.
You know what's crazy is that the militia revitalized would actually pay for that investigation, because it would be paid for through the exemption fees that would be statutorily created and mandated. You'd have that money, no problem.
Or another government that would just like to create some turmoil in the United States. Hey, allow us to sue our own government.
China might have done that with that building.
Things to think about. Thank you for that. Somebody else had their hand up.
And Mike, I'm looking for a document that was the opinion of the I think it was the circuit in New York. Is it Second Circuit in New York?
Yeah.
Second Circuit Court of Appeals decision on We the People Foundation versus United States on the right to petition question. And the judge in that case was Judge Kavanaugh. So it's very important opinion to read, because if you're going to take the issue, if the issue is going to go to the Supreme Court ultimately, or you're going to want to present this stuff to other governors, other states, that opinion is, and the reason why they brought down the opinion they did, it's very important to read and understand, because you're dealing now with a Supreme Court justice who rendered that opinion. In that particular, when he was a district court judge. So I'm trying to find that document right now, but when I find it, I'll email it out and let everybody know.
Cool, thank you. Anyone else? Around the room, Lou, you got anything for the group this week? Thanks for joining, brother. You're muted if you want to say anything.
Who?
Lou Welsh, you got anything for the group this week? He comes back, we'll come back. Mike Zarzano, Florida, you got anything for the group? Any final words?
You want to unshare the screen so that we can see?
Oh, yeah, sorry about that.
No, I don't, but thanks anyways.
Hey,
All right.
Mike Zarzano. Mike Zarzano,
Yes, sir.
I look forward to calling you and chatting with you. I'm here in North Florida, and I came up with that acronym, CREATORS. We're conspiracy realist, educator, activist, truther, organizer, reader, socializers, because we're still reading, and that's why I use chat on these in this Zoom format. And it's, I'm an old, I read, and so I look forward to organizing with you. I was down there in Kissimmee. A lot of you read what I said in chat today, and you had Richard Gage on and Mick Harrison, and it's just that we creators refuse to pretend that we don't know we've been lied to. And, none are so blind as those who will not see. But most people, the vast majority of people in our country and in the world, are just trying to meet their Maslowian, lower order needs, our physiological needs for food and shelter, our psychological need to feel safe and secure, which I think women feel a little bit more than we males, And then our higher order needs are to belong, and I like belonging with 9/11 truthers, but I'm just finding out today, though, that the guy is 6'10". I'm reading Michael Crichton's State of Fear, now published in 2004, in which he really debunks the this global warming, climate change story, which can be a distraction to us who we just want justice. And the criminals found out that mass murdered almost, over 3,000 people when you include everybody. And then of course now you get with COVID and the shutdown and the great reset, and it gets complicated pretty fast. Don't get me started, Gene. Don't get me started.
Gotcha. Thank you, Lou, for joining.
Thank you.
Ray, anything last for the group?
Yeah, I have. I'll put on my camera. It's nicer. You can see each other.
Yes.
The two things. I enjoyed the film festival Richard did. It was really great to see the guests he put on. It was a little long and there's a lot of collecting of money, but that's his thing. He wants to make the film. It's okay.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed the third part from Corbett, because it's really interesting. And these are the second item I wanted to talk about. That if we want, can we go one back? Yeah. It's if you talk about explosions, they're deflagrations and they're detonations, and those are the two. They're defined in how powerful they are, and what it means. What it we really have to look at the overpressure caused by certain explosions. We call it deflagration. A deflagration is not as powerful as a detonation, and that causes a lot of overpressure. And then the second picture is what I understand happened at the World Trade Center, is that you actually have two explosions followed rapidly after one another. You first have a detonation, and then you get a deflagration. And the power of the first one, the detonation, is it has a sonic boom. You can hear the boom of the explosion when there's a detonation. A deflagration does not have a sonic boom because it's subsonic. It's the speed at which the gases travel in the combustion.
Yep.
So it's really good for us to understand that if we talk about an explosion, it's actually you can compartmentalize it in two parts: a deflagration, which is fire burning, and a detonation, which is used by bombs, and it's much more rapid.
Gotcha.
That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Bruce, anything for the group before you go? Before we go?
Sure. Hey, Gene. Hey, Sandra. I assume when Richard and Gail were on earlier that they reviewed the event that we had down here in Miami, right?
Yeah.
It's getting hard to hear you, Sandra.
Yes, he mentioned it.
You mentioned it.
Yeah, so pretty much that's the only update I have. It was a good event, but of course, like a lot of the other organizers said, I mean, when was there a dozen people there, and about half of them were already aware of the issue in the first place. Interestingly, one of the heads of one of the local Republican chapters attended. So hopefully, like the other gentleman mentioned earlier, there's some, moving of the needle within Republican and conservative circles on the issue. So otherwise, it was an excellent event. Just of course, nobody really showed up.
Well, sometimes that's what happens. But thank you for being a voice in the wilderness, there, brother. And forgive me for not calling on you sooner. That I could have.
No, I was just kind of dropping in as you know, as an observer, I appreciate that you guys host these calls, you know, every single week. I'll probably make more of an effort to, you know, to jump on.
Right on. Thank you. Excuse me. Let me find my way back to my screen.
Al and Mike have their hands up.
Say what?
Al and Mike have their hands up.
Okay. I'm trying to wrap up, but I was going to get to them. But Al, what do you got?
Yeah, I forgot to ask Richard. He was going to do an interview with Eric, Paul, and Raul. And we were waiting on that because we wanted to send out to the firemen in Massachusetts. This is for the Papa. I guess they haven't gotten around to it yet. So that's a question for Richard, when that's going to take place. And finally, I forgot to mention that Lorenzo and Sue were out at the Hudson Fire Department on 9/11. And Lorenzo's relentless in trying to approach the fire chief out there, and gave him, Rule had sent us a seal with firemen, policemen, very nice embroidered seal. And they presented that to the fire chief in Hudson as a sort of to disarm them and be more receptive to taking our information. So I thought that was pretty nice of them to do that. The Papa Protecting All Protectors Association, sort of waiting on Eric to get that rolling, because our whole effort now, as well as the Lawyers Committee, is to approach firemen and get them looking at Bravo 7. And so that's the other part of what we're planning on doing in the near future.
Yep. Anything else while you're
Oh,
talking?
that's it.
Okay. Thank you, brother. Mike Zarzano, anything? Oh, wait, I already asked you, but your hand's up. What do you got? Mike?
Yeah, I got a hand up. Just real quick, I wanted to mention to Ray, I had some specific questions I'd like to ask him, and I put my contacts in the chat for Ray and also Bruce, if he would give me a contact for reaching out to him. I'd appreciate it. That's it. Thank you, Gene.
Well, you're welcome. Do you have Facebook, Mike?
I do, but I'd prefer either text or email.
Okay,
if that's-
mail. Okay.
Okay, great. I put it in the chat for you directly.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Kale with the cowbell. Anything for the group for this week, brother?
Cowbell? What? No, I love you guys.
I do too.
No.
That wasn't a derogatory term.
No, so I say again, thank you for everything that you do. And our children are learning so much from all of you. It's awesome. And that's, you know, that's our main focus from a family point of view. Yeah.
Right on.
But thank you. And then I'll get almost done with that video. So I'll get that to you guys.
No rush.
I need 6 more photos though. Where can I pull from that for that?
Sure, we can find 6 more. We were like
Yeah.
limited.
We can find 6 from the last week alone, so.
Yeah.
Actually, my wife mentioned that if you guys can send some from what you did this past event, that would be good. Okay, cool.
Yeah, sure. I'll do that tonight.
Thank
Okay.
you, all you good-hearted people. Thank you for being here. Have a good night and a good week. Talk to you.
And get better.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha.